topic of today is going to be all about the reasons behind why you're emotionally eating. So my name is Lisa Callahan. For those of you who don't know me already, I am the founder of the Women's Emotional Eating Community Support Group, and I also run a wonderful, wonderful program called Crush That Food Thing Self-Discovery System. And some of the things that I'm going to be teaching you today are things that we learn in Crush That Food Thing. So you're going to be kind of taking a sneak peek and a behind the scenes look at what it is that you will be exploring and learning about yourself if you decide to come and work with me. So I want to give you sort of a bird's eye view. Like, think about that you're kind of above the reasons that typically people come up with when they're struggling with an emotional eating issue. And I've listed 10 here. I actually have them in the chat or in the description of this. So I'm going to start backwards, and I know that these are the reasons because when you all are joining the group, you guys give me the reasons. So I just kind of compiled a list of 10, and they're all in different order. So don't think that any one is more important than the other. They're just the way that I wrote them down. So what this list is this is an on the surface list. And it doesn't really give us much room for growth, since these problems or these reasons that you come into this group thinking are your actual problem are really just the tip of the iceberg. They're just right on the surface, but below the surface, below the level of these surface level problems, there's a lot more. And I think that you know that. And I think that that's why you're still searching. Because if the reasons that I'm going to list to you in a few minutes or a few seconds, if these were real problems, if this was just like simple, then you would know how to fix it. But because you keep struggling over and over, going on different diets, going on different programs that are shakes and bars, going on different medications. I mean, I know that there's a lot of medications out there that are meant to help, and I believe that they do in a certain way. And yet at the same time, what's the problem? Like, we want to get to the root. And that's why the reasons why I want to share with you today, I'm going to help you to go into a little bit of a deeper dive to get some background and understanding and why these reasons are not really the problem. So the reasons that people come into this group are, they tell me that they have a lack of self-discipline, that this is the only reason why they're struggling with emotional eating, because they're just not disciplined enough. They also tell me that they have a lack of consistency, like they'll do really well for a few days or a few months or even a few years, and then just something happens. I have a lot of women who have had the bariatric surgery, and when they have that surgery done, like, their stomach shrinks, so they are now consuming less food. And I hope, I don't really know this for sure, that the doctors who are doing that surgery might give you some nutritional, like, I don't know, information. So hopefully you're going home from that thinking like, okay, this is my new way of eating, and this is my new stomach, and this is my new everything. And for a while it does work. And usually it works for sometimes quite a while, even 100 pounds later. And yet time after time, I see women joining the group that have had the surgery that are sort of still going back to their old ways, or still aren't feeling that happy, even though they've lost the weight. So it's an interesting piece. And then what people tell me is they're like, well, I know what to do, but I just can't stay consistent, right? And that feels like a problem. Another one of the reasons why that I get here is like not wanting to cook, or not knowing how to cook, not knowing what to eat, not knowing how to cook, brought up in, big Italian family, like, or just any, Greek, or it doesn't matter, just where like food was a big part of their lives. And now, like, I don't know what to eat. Like, I'm used to eating baked ziti every day, right? Another one is, feeling not like you don't care, like just feeling literally like, I say I care, every morning I wake up with the same thing, and then like by 3 p.m. I'm just like, I don't care. And that also goes along with feeling like unloved or unlovable. And that is where the deeper roots in. So when we're coming into this with thinking like, well, the reason why I'm struggling with an emotional eating issue is because I feel unlovable. Well, that has nothing to do with the food, right? So this is why today I'm going to give you a new level of awareness, like an understanding of how to be able to get underneath that surface. Because as we're starting to see, as this list is unraveling, some of these problems are pretty surface level. How do we get underneath them is the question. Another one is having no willpower, and also loving food is another one. That's a big one that I get, where people just say, well, what am I supposed to do? Like, I just love food. I've loved food since I was a kid. I absolutely love food. And these are the foods that I love. And everything else doesn't taste good. So how am I supposed to make changes, right? So that will make you feel like you're stuck. But I promise I have more to tell. Sometimes people come in thinking the reasons are friends and family, like everybody else can eat it, how come I can't? Or I get a lot of stories about like husbands being super thin and like they can eat anything they want, but I look at a cookie and I gain 10 pounds, right? And so we kind of feel like, or even that like all the people in the house are bringing all the crap food in and they don't even care, but you do care and you want to figure it out, but like all the food's just there and like you can't figure it out, right? Another one that I see is boredom and loneliness, just like serious, just boredom. Like I have nothing that's going on, or I just don't feel like there's anything in my day that makes me happy other than what I'm going to eat. And so we'll talk about that a little bit too. Another one that I get is guilt, anxiety, and the big one is stress. Big time. People come in all the time saying that because of their stress level that they just can't figure out, like it's just they don't have time to think about it. They can't think about anything else. They're just too stressed, and who has time to think about food, right? Can you see the energy that's being applied to that? So and the last one is sugar addiction, and that one is a half truth actually, because as you're going through this process of figuring out what's underneath the surface level of these reasons. Remember, these reasons are on the top. There's something underneath them. So when you're going underneath that, at some point you will have to address the fact that sugar is addicting. So as we work with you in Crush That Food Thing self-discovery system, that's kind of how we start. We start with the mindset reset. Then we figure out within that mindset kind of opening up and getting to a new level of awareness, what it is that you're discovering about yourself. Once you can put those things together, then we can deep dive into changing your habits, which you will need to do because yes, sugar is addicting. So let's talk about this a little bit. I want you to think about what those reasons are creating for you, because you feel so stuck. So it doesn't seem logical that when you feel like those are your problems, but yet you're thinking over and over and over again about the food and how the food is keeping you stuck. But as we see here, it's not really about the food, because the problems that you're coming into this program with and just joining the Women's Emotional Eating Community Support Group are that you have no willpower. Now, you having no willpower, you having a belief about yourself that you have no willpower, or you having a belief about yourself that you cannot trust yourself around food, or you having a belief about yourself that you cannot follow through with what you say, meaning that if you tell yourself, I'm going to eat this thing. In fact, I was just talking to somebody yesterday who said, like, I just want to follow through with what I say. If I say that I'm going to have oatmeal and egg whites and I'm going to have a piece of chicken and I'm going to have a salad, like I want to eat what it is that I write down on my journal, right? Because like a lot of people are doing the food journal. So like you're going to write down like an itemized list, or maybe you're working with a nutritionist or even a health coach who might say like, well, this is what you have to eat, and this is what you have to eat, and this is what you have to eat, and you got to drink these waters, and you got to look, and maybe you've gotten a book from a doctor, and those are cool things because you're getting information. The problem is that you're going at it in the opposite way of how it will serve you best to work if you go at it from a mindset place first. Get through the mindset, figure out why it is that you don't trust yourself, figure out why it is that you can't give yourself a command, like tell yourself, I'm going to eat chicken now, but you don't eat chicken, you eat Kit Kats. Why are you doing that? So we're trying to just like go at it without thinking about it at all. Just get that out of the way. I'm not going to think about it. I'm just going to try and change my habit. It doesn't work. And we prove that it doesn't work because over and over and over again, you keep coming up with the same problems. Same problems. I can't trust myself. I feel bored. I hate to cook. So we're making our food issues, or actually, let me reverse that. We're making our life issues a food issue. Does that make sense? I know we have some people watching. Hello. Michaela, I think it is. So if that makes sense, like put it in the chat, because the way that even society will encourage you to do things, it's like you have to go on a diet. You've got to limit your foods. You've got to change, the way that you're drinking your water. You've got to sit and meditate. All those things are great, except for if you are struggling with the inside feelings about yourself. And because of that, you're having a problem trusting or enjoying, let's just change the wording actually, enjoying food. Now that I don't struggle with a emotional eating issue anymore, I love food. I love food, real food. I eat berries every day. I eat apples every day. I chop up apples every day, put it into my whole day. I have like an apple and all day long, like sometimes I'll put it in my oatmeal. Sometimes I'll put it in I have some shredded wheat sometimes in the morning. Sometimes I'll throw a few pieces into a salad. So I just spread my food throughout the day, and I never, can you imagine? Never emotionally eat anymore. And I did for such a long time. So what this is it's called a limiting belief. Write that down. You may have heard, I didn't make up the term limiting beliefs. It's an actual term. What a limiting belief causes you to feel is that you are flawed. A limiting belief causes you to think that you have no options. And a limiting belief also causes you to feel like there is absolutely no other way that you could possibly think. And because of that, you will keep telling yourself, I can't trust myself, I'm unlovable, I'm not consistent, I don't know what to do, I don't even like to cook, because most of the time what that comes from is it comes from a place of just fear. It's not that you don't like to cook, it's just that you're afraid to, right? You're afraid to try new things. And it's interesting, and even the part about not having like family and friends and so on, I could be anywhere. If I'm with a group who's, let's say, I don't know, my son's soccer game and they went to McDonald's or something, like I'm not eating McDonald's, period, end of story. So it wouldn't matter. And the reason why it is so different for me now, before I would have been like, oh shit, I'm gonna go to McDonald's today. Oh, I'm not gonna be able to trust myself. I'm definitely gonna have some fries. And the funny thing is, it's okay if I have some fries. That's not the problem. The problem is that if I'm going to go someplace, I want to be able to trust that I'm going to be able to decide for myself and choose for myself what I decide at that moment. I don't want to have to think about it an hour, 2 hours, 3 days before. I know that I speak to women all the time who are worried about like, oh my gosh, like I know I just had somebody the other day that's got some family coming into town. And it's a couple weeks from now, and she's already worried about it because she's like, oh, I've just started this diet, and like, how am I going to stay on that diet? And like, how, it's a fear. And because that fear is on the surface level, that's why it's not about the food. And when I say this, it might trigger you to feel like angry with me. It might trigger you to feel like, seriously, Lisa? No, no. The reason because I'm having this trouble, and this is the reason. And when I say it's not about the food, it might make you feel angry with me because now I'm kind of going underneath the surface into the place where the limitation was created, where the limitation was born. Now, I'm not a psychiatrist, I'm not a therapist, but I have learned this technique through a journey that I took that was called self-discovery. And I always give credit to where credit is due. So the coaching company that I went with, and I am in debt to them, is called Your Infinite Life Coaching Company. And I have to share this story, and bear with me because we're going to go off track a little bit from the reasons why. But I think that when we get to the end of it, because I'm going to share with you a story that I discovered about myself that was related to a limiting belief that I had within myself. And I want to share this story openly because I feel like it's going to help you relate to a story in your life where you are being limited. Now, it has nothing to do with food, absolutely nothing. And it does date back to my childhood. Now, I want to add a little caveat here. I know that a lot of people will say, well, you can't blame your childhood on everything, Lisa. I agree with you. However, it's not a blame, it's information. It's getting curious. When you feel something in the present that triggers you to feel something that is absolutely unreasonable. Because the truth is that when you're telling yourself that you're not consistent or you're not trustworthy or you're not, that you can't control yourself or any of those things, right? Any of the reasons why you come into this, or that you're an addict of some kind, right? When you tell yourself those things, you're only relating it to this food situation. In other areas of your life, it's completely not true. When you feel like you're weak or you have no willpower, or you can't control yourself or any of those things, we know that it's not true because if one of those things was, let's say, if there was a situation with your child or grandchild or spouse or somebody you love, anybody, and like you would be completely on top of things, right, for them. And just with this food thing, you're like, oh, no, can't trust myself. And we know that's not true. We know that you are trustworthy. We know that you have integrity. We know that you are, capable, very capable. And yet somehow or another, when it comes to this food thing, all bets are off. And that's why I say that the food is being used on the surface level to distract you from understanding the limiting belief that you have about yourself in that little space of time, in that little moment, and how it's just being dragged out through your life and it's causing you limitations. Now, what we like to do with those limitations is we like to take the limiting belief and we like to turn it into an empowering belief. And so that way, when you feel limited and you feel tight in your head and you tell yourself, I can't trust myself, I can't stay consistent, I have no willpower, blah, 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 then you can go into your mindset and you can say, what does that make me feel like? And how did that limitation start? And what do I want to learn about that? And maybe, just maybe, I need to either forgive myself for something maybe that you didn't even know was wrong to begin with, or maybe I need to accept something that happened in my life that I cannot change, or maybe I need to move beyond the limitations of what I thought that I was capable to do at that time that the limitation got created. So now, bear with me. because I have a story to share. So when I really first discovered one of my deep-rooted limitations, this came at a time when I had already started my journey of self-discovery. And by journey, I just mean that I went to different courses, and the first class that I ever took got me to understand that everything that I thought was not the only way to think. And when I left that class and I was like, wow, like some of the things that I think are pretty harsh. Like, why am I thinking these things about myself? Why am I telling myself I'm, stupid and fat and ugly and like idiot and whatever? Like, why am I doing that? So it got me to like a new level of awareness. However, there was one course that I took, and it was ironically called Limiting Beliefs. That was the class. That's how I learned it. And when I was in this class, I was listening to all the other stories, and I was like, okay. And at that time, I had already started coaching clients. I was a health coach, so I had already started coaching clients. And I would already say that I was on my journey to crushing my food thing, because I started to realize through health coaching school that I had a lot of like hangups about food, and that like the things that I thought about food were actually really, really causing me a lot of limitations, but not as even in that, they were really unhealthy. And I started to look at it as more of being something was like wrong and I really needed to fix it, because this was not a healthy way to live, like with my mind thinking constantly about food 24/7 and constantly like, staying on a diet and then not staying on a diet. So health coaching school really helped me to open up a new level of awareness for myself. But this particular class, so I was in the class, and because I was coaching already, I'm taking 1,000 notes, and I'm like, oh, this will help my client, and this will help my client. And I wasn't really focused on myself. This kind of snuck up on me. So it became my turn, because everybody in the class gets to take a turn. It became my turn, and I said, actually, like, I'm super happy. Like, I don't feel like I have any limitations. I'm like, the only thing that I will say that I have a limitation for is I have this sleeping problem. I don't know. And I just like poo-pooed it. I was like, whatever. And I'm going to stop for a second and just let you know that once I discovered that I had issues with food, and there were limitations, I realized that I had limitations in other areas as well. Sleep was one of them. Organization was another. Money was another one. Like time, like being on time or not being on time. Or I had those things too. And that's really why I named the program Crush That Food Thing, because as soon as you enter the program, you will realize that it's not about the food, and we don't necessarily go into it with a mindset of just going after the food pieces, although there is food incorporated into the program, but it's not our focus. Our focus is our mindset, our focus is our self-discoveries, and then our focus is changing the habits. So getting back to my story, so I'm in this class and I start talking about sleep. And my coach, Pam Dunn, and you can look her up on Instagram or wherever. She's amazing. So she says to me, well, Lisa, it's not about the sleep. Now, I've said those words to my clients a million times. It's not about the food. But she said to me, it's not about the sleep. And as soon as she said it, I got pissed off. I really did. And I'm in a room of like 30 people, and I could feel my head space going here. And I was like, well, no, actually, Pam, it is about the sleep, because I can't sleep, and I'm too hyper, and I'm too not focused, and I just, and this was all part of the thing, right? So she continues to prompt me and to try and ask me questions and such, and I keep just sneaking I was being snotty. I really was. I was like saying things, and I was like angry, and I could just feel myself closing up. She said it over and over. It's not about the sleep. It's not about the sleep. Lisa, it's about something else. Do you want to talk about that something else? And I was like, no, I don't. And she was like, okay. And she did what any good coach would do. She dismissed me. And it felt weird. It was like, wow, I just like lost my turn and I didn't even get anything out of it. What just happened? Like it felt really negative to me, and I wanted to like punch somebody. That's how you know you're very close. And that was the one thing that she said to me. She said, Lisa, you're very close to figuring this out. And the reason why you're so close to figuring it out is because of how resistant you are. So I left the class at the end of the day. Other people went out. I was like, no, I was too drained. I just felt exhausted. So I went to the supermarket. And I got what I thought was going to be like a healthful dinner, a salad, whatever. And then I just started, and that was it. I got Ben and Jerry's ice cream. I got yogurt covered pretzels. I got, what else did I get that night? I got cookies. I don't even know. That was probably it. Oh no, I got those little, those little like little, I don't know, they're crunchy things that I liked. I can't remember what they're called right now. Anyways, so I made it my business that it was like, bring it on. I'm going to have a binge tonight. And I chose to do that because I was like, fuck it. I'm exhausted. I'm angry. I'm pissed off. And this is what I'm going to do. And so I had to travel for this. So I stayed in a hotel. So I got to the hotel and I sat there and I'm like, looked in the mirror and I'm like, why are you doing this? Because I had already opened up some new awareness to my headspace for eating. So I kind of knew, I was like, gosh, you've been like so conscientious of like thinking about things and like you've been mindful and whatever. And why are you going to do this to yourself right now? And I just looked and I was like, I don't care. Like, I just don't care. I'm angry and I don't care. So I had my binge and I woke up in the morning with what I would call a sugar coma. Like I really, really felt just awful, just awful. And I ended up calling the coach and I said to her, I said, I can't come in. I'm too drained. I'm too exhausted. I'm going to go for a walk. I don't even know what's wrong with me. I feel weird and I don't know what's wrong. And there was a golf course across the street and I went for a walk. So I have to back up now. When I was 8 years old, my father died. Now, I had been in therapy since 8 years old. So I really thought that I dealt with this. I really did. So let me just share, because I'm going to break into my story and I'm going to share the piece of the puzzle that was missing for me and I didn't know this. So I'm going to share the story of when I was 8 years old and then I'll go back to the story of where I was on that day and how I figured out my limiting belief. So my father worked in a book manufacturing company and he was on the night shift. So he came home in the middle of the night. We lived in Monroe, New York, and he had about a 45-minute drive. And for those of you who know Tuxedo, New York, he was driving through there at an intersection. It was December 20th, 1980. And there was a drunk driver and the drunk driver, he was going through a green light. The drunk driver hit him right on the driver's side and he died instantly. So when the police came to our house in the middle of the night and they knocked on the door, I was 8, my sister was 14, so she's 6 years older than me. So she had a different awareness than I did. I was like sleeping. She was up because she knew he wasn't home. And so she was pacing by the window and looking and so on and so forth. So when the police came to the door, my sister knew that they were there and she saw them pull up and she was like, oh my God. So she comes to the top of the stairs. My mother goes downstairs, opens the door. Here's the police come in and they say, Mrs. Getlin, your husband was killed in a car accident. Well, my sister heard this, obviously, and she was at the top of the stairs and she screamed, like at the top of her lungs screamed and started to fall down the stairs. So the police officers went rumbling up to go grab her. I wake up in my bed. I'm 8 years old. I wake up screaming because I heard this in my dream and I woke up and I was like shocked. I didn't know what happened. Get up, go down the hall, my little sleeper, and I'm feeling all cute because there's these, police officers and, I'm a little girl. And they didn't tell me what happened because they were dealing with my sister. So I ended up asking my mom, I said, Mommy, where's Daddy? And in a, huge emotional moment, they said, Daddy died. And from the inside depths of my soul, a giggle came up, a little, and it was weird. It came up out of nowhere. And when I did that, my mom and they reacted. They were like, why are you laughing? And I got shocked. I didn't know why. I didn't know what that was. And I also didn't know what my choice was. Like, I didn't know what happened. And it actually shamed me. And I felt like I didn't know what to do. And even years later, when I went and talked to the therapist, I never revealed that one piece that just seemed like something was wrong with me. I reacted wrong. I didn't know that I reacted wrong. I didn't know how I reacted wrong. I didn't know what was I supposed to do. I didn't know. But at that moment right there created a belief about myself. It was a belief that I couldn't trust myself to do the right thing. I had clearly done something wrong. I was also angry at myself. Now, I'll give you a little further explanation. When I'm Jewish, so we had like a Shiva. So right from that moment, it was like a party. All of a sudden, there was food everywhere, like everywhere, food, tables of food. And I mean, people were bringing stuff right and left. We had, services in my house for 7 days. There was people and rabbis. And I mean, people were bringing me presents, oh, poor Lisa, how are you? I didn't know what it was about. Like, I was playing. I didn't know how to respond. Like, I was a little girl. And after that, life just went back to normal. In fact, he died on Christmas vacation from school. So we ended school on like December 19th. He died on December 20th. I was back in school 2 weeks later. Like, nothing ever happened. Nobody even knew. My friend, close friends, I guess, knew. But like, I went back to school and the school didn't know. Like, nothing. And in the 80s, I don't think things were done as stellar as they are now. So I think that it just, like, life flipped over and things did change. And I think that I became angry with the change in my life. Things were different. There was no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Between 8 and the rest of my life and 8 and before, things were different, right? That was a pivotal moment in my existence that I really, really thought that I had dealt with. And in fact, I know that it had been so long. I mean, talking 1980, like, I could say it any day of the week, like, oh yeah, my dad died when I was 8, like just like pass me the salt. Like, I just didn't, because it was so long ago. Like, how, what are you holding on forever? Yes, you miss, but you got to move on, right? The thing about it, and I didn't know this, going back to that day, I felt that anger. And somehow or another, on that day, when I was in that class for the limiting beliefs and starting to think about the sleep and writing things and piecing it together, and then I went for that walk on the golf course, all of a sudden, I realized, like, something came into my body, and I realized that I was really, really angry at my father for dying. That feels weird. It's like, how could you be angry at someone for dying? This poor man lost his life. But I didn't think about it like that ever before. And how awful of a person am I to think that, right? And that I could laugh when he died? Like, what was that about? So I really, really needed to explore this because it wasn't making sense, and yet it was all making sense because I had never really forgiven myself. And realizing also that, as interesting as it sounds, I needed to forgive him for changing my life, because everything that happened before and after his death changed my life. It blew my life up. And I know I shared that, things just went back to normal. They didn't. They didn't go back to normal. It seemed like they were normal because I went back to school and whatever. They were not normal. Things changed. Things changed in my household. Things changed with my mom. Things changed after that. And I did go to therapy, like I did. And like, how many times are you going to talk about it? I remember going to different therapists even as an adult because I suffered with anxiety and tremendous, terrible stomach different things. And I remember saying to the therapist, every time I went to a new therapist, I was like, my dad died, this happened, that I don't want to talk about it. Like, let's just move on. And the truth is, though, is that because of the limiting belief about myself, I couldn't move on. And nobody had ever helped me see that. And I had never, ever thought of it on my own. So on that golf course, on that day, something hit me in my mind. And I recognized what I needed to do. And for the first time ever, I opened up like a conversation to my father where I felt so magnetically connected to him in the spiritual world or something. I don't know. And myself, that I felt like my whole body was like shrinking as I was exposing these thoughts. And I actually had to lie down on the golf course. And when I got up, I was like, I don't know, I just felt like different. Something changed in me. And I was able to go back to the class. And while I was going back to the class and I was driving, I cried, mourned. Like I finally really mourned for my father dying. And I also mourned for that little 8-year-old girl that lost her daddy. And I could feel tears now. But in the past, I never was able to. Like, it was just like, oh, my dad died. Now I can feel it. And that's the difference. When the limiting belief is blocking you, it doesn't allow you to feel certain feelings. And what it does is it allows you, or it stops you from being able to move through those feelings and be able to see yourself through a wider lens. Because what I was doing for so long, what I've learned from my coach is that anger, if you can feel it and actually get through it, you'll find your courage. And because I was staying angry with myself and I was fueling it with all of the food, right? The food was causing me to be angry with myself. I had to continue to feed myself, to prove to myself that I had to feel angry. I wasn't really feeling it, I was fueling it. And once I was able to feel it on just that, it took about 20 minutes of real cry, like real, just like from my soul. I felt it. I really felt it. I felt sad. I felt angry. I felt it. Once I was done with that, it was like an open room for me to grow. And then I was able to address the habits of my emotional eating, which were standing in front of the refrigerator, eating too fast, eating while I was driving, all those things. Then I was able to focus on that because I had found my courage. And I had also been able to allow that little girl inside of me, that little 8-year-old, I allowed her to believe that she was courageous for surviving this episode that happened in her life. See, before that, I was just angry at her. I just thought she was stupid. And I made sure that she knew that she was stupid every day. So I hope that this was a deep topic today. I hope that you can understand and feel where your limiting beliefs, things that may have happened in your life that you, again, you might not want to address them. It's just that that's okay. It's just that I have to ask, how is that working for you? And if it is, fantastic. And if it's not, let's talk. So that is my talk today about the reason why you are struggling with an emotional eating issue. Now, there are lots of other reasons. Don't think that it's all only about limiting beliefs. There are influences in our lives. There are things that happen. But at the same time, what will happen is it will create a feeling inside of your mindset. I just posted something yesterday about my good friend Dara Torres having an eating disorder. And it really was the same thing for her. She believed that she needed to lose weight to look a certain way to be a certain thing, right? And that's a limiting belief, right? And so in order to be able to change that, you have to convince yourself that it is time to believe something else. And in order to do that, if you've been struggling for decades, in order to do that, it's helpful if you can go back in and see where your limiting beliefs are holding you back from being able to be the best version of yourself now, right? Because I didn't know that that was tied to the past. How would I know? And so what we do in Crush That Food Thing Self-Discovery System is we help you to navigate through your own limitations. We talk all about, the mindset and how you might be keeping your mind very closed, and what will happen if you broaden that view. Like, think about it. Even put your hands in front of your face like this, right? You get a limited vision, right? Start to move them a little out. You're still limited. Start to move them a little out. Oh, look. Oh, look. Oh, look. I can see more, right? So really think about this and think about where it is that you might want to turn that switch so that you can make new discoveries about yourself. And then you can change your habits, not backwards. All right, everybody. I hope that you enjoyed this little talk today, and I will see you next time. Thank you, ladies, for joining me. Bye now.